What's up, friends? Happy Monday. Welcome in to an all-new episode of the Pack-A-Day Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Thanks so much for being here today. We are in the thick of training camp. Jordan Love's there now. Everything is in pads. It feels much more like an actual training camp environment and a training camp practice. And I think you're now seeing the offense and the defense start getting a little bit more motivated, a little bit more juiced up. We've seen a little bit more intensity, let's put it that way, from both sides. It's been really, really good. And it's just such a fun time of year. As always, thanks so much for making Pack-A-Day part of your daily routine. Quick shout out to Gene McGarry for becoming a brand new Pack-A-Day Podcast YouTube member. Make sure to check out those Pack-A-Day Podcast YouTube memberships, extra episodes, extra Q&As. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure to check those out. Also, we have our Luigi's Pizza Player of the Week on offense this week. This was a much tougher decision because the offense has still been a little bit disjointed. Jordan Love didn't get there until later in the week. We've only had a couple practices with Jordan. Jordan worked off some rust the first day. Wasn't any one player that's really sort of taken off since then. Before then, the offense did almost nothing. But I'm actually going to go with a little bit of an under-the-radar player here. I could have probably gone with a Christian Watson, maybe a Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed since coming back from injury. But with Reed, he did have that injury where he wasn't in team earlier in the week. Then with Watson, he did have the day during the monsoon where he had multiple drops on the day. So just like there wasn't really a key one, but I'm going to actually go Emmanuel Wilson for our Luigi's Player of the Week this week. I thought he ran really, really well. You can tell he's got a little bit of that burst. He's got fresh legs. He ran with power. He ran with, patience when he needed to. There's a play that he went to the outside that he set up the block very well. And then when he realized he had the hole, he accelerated through it. Not too different from the play a year ago in preseason where he took it to the right side and then was just gone. He had that extra acceleration and burst. This one probably went for more like 30 yards, but still, he's been running really well in practice. We haven't seen too much of Wilson out of the backfield. He did have a drop in practice on Sunday that hit his hands on a check down, I think in the 2-minute drill it was. But overall, from just a pure running standpoint, from a team that hasn't ran the ball really well, and we haven't seen too many flashy plays out of the run game, Emmanuel Wilson has made multiple of them and has consistently run hard every single day. So from a offense that hasn't had a ton to choose from this past week, I'm going with Emmanuel Wilson. Maybe not the, flashiest choice in the world, but I think deserving for a really good week of practice from his side of things. So he is our Luigi's Player of the Week on the offensive side of the ball. Listen, Luigi's is kind enough to make Pack-A-Day part of their family. Please make sure that you are making Luigi's part of yours. Bring home that amazing Luigi's pizza. And you know what? You don't even have to give it to your family. Just make one for yourself. Like that, it's worth it in and of itself. You might not want to let anyone else know that you're making one, because I know for me, I can definitely handle one Luigi's on my own and I don't want to share with anyone. So make sure to pick one up when you have your nearest opportunity. All right, let's get to the rest of our training camp updates for the day. Return from practice, Josh Myers. So remember, he was out with a personal issue. He was back at practice and back in that starting center position. We did have some new injuries. Deslin Alexander, edge rusher, defensive end, was out with a lower leg injury. Zane Anderson, safety, was out with a knee injury. And Keyshawn Banks, another edge rusher / defensive end, was out with a groin injury. Elton Jenkins had a rest day. So no concerns with Jenkins. This seems to be a little bit of a rotation for him. Meanwhile, Keyshawn Banks, Zane Anderson, Deslin Alexander, all new to the injury report. We did have one player that was a little bit of a question mark as to whether or not he dropped out at the end of practice. That was Jordan Morgan. He did not do the 2-minute drill with the 1s, the 2s, or the 3s, and it was Royce Newman. That was the starter with the 1s. That doesn't feel like anything that they've done so far. It felt like maybe Morgan was not available. And then, the only thing that would sort of counterbalance that is the fact that Morgan was there on the sidelines with his helmet, which usually indicates he's ready to go in. So not sure the situation or circumstance there, other than the fact that he did not play with the 1s, the 2s, or the 3s, which means something sort of weird, but we'll see if ultimately he's ready to go at practice. Remember, no practice on Monday. The next practice will be on Tuesday. So players that were not participating in practice were 8 in total. Kitano Ladapo still on the NFL or non-football injury list, with the toe injury. Marshawn Lloyd with the hip injury. Tucker Kraft on pup with the pec injury. Easy for me to say. Robert Rochelle with the calf injury. And then Deslin Alexander, Zane Anderson, and Keyshawn Banks that we all talked about. And Elton Jenkins with a rest day. Some starting notes. Most of the starting lineup is the same, but we had Rasheed Walker at left tackle, Sean Ryan at left guard, Josh Myers at center, Jordan Morgan at right guard, Kadeem Telfort at right tackle. It was Zach Tom at right tackle in the walkthroughs. Telfort was the first in with the starters, and then Andre Dillard also rotated in at right tackle with the starters. And then Royce Newman, as I mentioned, did get some time with the ones on the final 2-minute drive. He played left guard, and Sean Ryan played right guard in that scenario. Anthony Johnson Jr. was your starter next to Xavier McKinney for the day, and Isaiah McDuffie was your starter in nickel next to Quay. We did see a little bit of Edgerrin Cooper in base with the ones, which I don't recall seeing much, if any, of at this point. He wasn't the starter, but we did see him rotate in a little bit there. One of the key takeaways, even prior to practice, was from Matt's press conference. Nothing major here, but he was asked about Javon Bullard and Evan Williams in the play of the rookie safeties, which has been really, really impressive so far. And he reiterated that he is, he said very excited about both of them, and in particular talked about two sides of their games. And the first was the mental side of things, and the second was their versatility. It sounds like both of them are picking things up at a very high level, that they've been able to throw a lot at both of those players. Now, clearly, none of them have won anything yet. They're competing not only with each other, but again, Anthony Johnson Jr. has been in that conversation as well. He did talk about Paul Brettel, asked him about some state secrets about Xavier McKinney, it was Evan Williams who told Paul that it's Xavier McKinney that will make the check right before the play as to what safety is going to play in the box and what safety is going to play in the post, and how those safeties are going to respond to the play based on what's going on at the line of scrimmage and what the quarterback's doing and everything like that. So McKinney is making these very last second decisions of who's going to go, who's going to stay, who's the box, who's the post, which is some really cool stuff. Paul asked him about that, and he's like, mostly I think jokingly said, I'm glad Evan Williams is giving away our secrets. But that was a sort of interesting takeaway, that Xavier McKinney has that autonomy on the back end to make those sort of decisions, which is awesome. I did ask if that autonomy extended and if Xavier McKinney's had sort of any say as to what safety is doing best next to him or which one. And Matt LaFleur said no, but he said maybe they would have that conversation in the future. But it is interesting. I do think Xavier McKinney's knowledge in this defense and what he's bringing to the table is completely invaluable for what this defense is doing for a young defense. He has been everything that you would have asked for so far at that position. And even today in practice, there was a play where Keyshawn Nixon gave up a big crosser, and immediately McKinney went over with Nixon to get on the same page of what happened on that play. I think kind of give him, I don't know if it was tips or tricks, but just have that conversation. Those things are so important, and McKinney bringing that leadership day in and day out. But again, going back to the presser, Matt, super excited about Bullard and Evan Williams, and again, specifically mentioned the mental side of the game and the versatility for both of them. All right, I'll go through quickly some of my key takeaways that I did go through from the key takeaways episode, the quick hits episode from yesterday. The first was Sean Clifford and Michael Pratt. And Sean Clifford, just simply put, has had an awful start to the offseason, meaning OTAs, mini camps, and training camp. Interceptions galore, not being able to get the offense functioning in any real way. Had an okay day one of training camp, or I would even say a good day one of training camp, through multiple touchdowns and red zone activities, but that was just red zone. They didn't do a ton of team activities that day. And ever since then, any sort of move the ball periods, 2-minute periods, it has been a massive struggle. Not seeing the field. Like I said, multiple turnover worthy plays every single day, interception upon interception. In today's practice, a play where he got pressured, maybe would have been a sack, probably would have been a sack, but threw anyway. Carrington Valentine makes the interception. And then in the 2-minute drill for the twos, first play at 2-minute, throws an immediate interception to Evan Williams over the middle of the field. Just not seeing it right now. And as I mentioned on the quick hits episode, it'd be one thing if he's just being aggressive and you know what, there's going to be some risk reward. They're going to get some big plays out of it, but every once in a while it might get in harm's way. All right, maybe not ideal, but maybe a little bit more understandable, especially in a practice environment. But there has been no upside. There have been no big plays. The offense has been completely, stagnant is almost a compliment. It has gone backwards, multiple sacks, multiple interceptions. It's just been a huge net negative when Clifford has been in there so far. And I'll say this one more time. Still like Clifford. I still think there's something there. I hope he develops. I hope he continues to develop. I don't think this is the final, nail in the coffin or anything for Sean Clifford, nor should anyone be celebrating or hoping for that. I just think it's been a massive struggle for him so far. And there needs to be a turnaround, quite frankly, because it's been so bad so far. And then to kind of go on the positive side is we have started to see a few signs here and there from Michael Pratt. I thought he had a really nice day of practice today. Multiple throws with anticipation, including a couple really nice out routes. Had a play in the 2-minute drill where he fit it between two defenders to a diving wide receiver, Jalen Wayne in particular. Starting to see some throws that are translatable. And just to be clear one more time, we have not seen any of those type of throws from Sean. We saw one. I tell you about. We saw one throw in red zone on the very first day where he threw a great throw with anticipation for a touchdown. That was it. So now we're seeing more of those from Michael Pratt. We're not seeing any from Sean Clifford. Pratt's doing a better job of taking care of the ball. Clifford is not. I'm not saying that Pratt looks ready to just be the number 2 quarterback, but I think you kind of need to make the change at this point for two things. One, to see if you have a capable backup quarterback, because if Clifford can't and if Pratt can't, then you have to have a totally another conversation altogether. But if Pratt can show that he's got that capability, then okay, maybe you don't need to make any sort of roster mover transaction there, but it's becoming a much greater question mark. Still early, but it's become a major question mark because it's been so bad so far. So I think that's the first thing. And number 2, for Clifford's side of things, maybe he just needs to take a step back and regroup. Maybe going against the 3s will give him a little bit more confidence. I don't know what it might be at this point, but the play of Clifford with the 1s and the 2s has simply not been good enough. And in my opinion, it's time to probably get a look at Michael Pratt to see, can it be better? And I'll say it one more time, if it can't, then where do you go from there? Do you put Clifford back in and see if he can improve? Do you just roll with Michael Pratt? Or do you need to make a phone call to a veteran quarterback to see if somebody can win that number 2 job? And then maybe you decide between Pratt and Clifford as a developmental number 3 instead of feeling like you can go into the season maybe with Pratt and Clifford with one of those guys entrenched as the 2 and the other one being the developmental guy. I'm not sure you're there at that point right now, but that's going to be a very important thing to figure out through the remainder of camp and preseason. Hope they both play great. Hope Clifford bounces back. Still think there's a little bit of something there, but it has been a massive, massive struggle so far. On a positive side of things, Kalen King, really nice day. Play of the day sort of play where he had a pick 6 against Jordan Love. Got to go against Love in the 1s. Made the most of it. Now, Love and Watson weren't on the same page on a throw. Love threw behind him. I don't think Watson was expecting it to go where it went. Kalen King makes a jump on the ball. Eyes on the quarterback. Picks it off. Takes it to the house. A little bit of a gift, maybe, but still, you got to make the play on the ball. You got to be in the right spot at the right time. And then he had the wherewithal to pick it off and take it to the other end for a touchdown. So really big play from him. And then in the 2-minute, had another big pass breakup and almost came down with a ridiculous juggling interception. Would have been a really tough one, but not only a tough one, would have been a miraculous one. Falls incomplete, but still another big pass breakup. Love the fact that he's been versatile, playing the boundary and the slot. He's been playing the run well. It's been good so far for Kalen King. I'm not ready to go anything above and beyond that, say he should be in the conversation for anything else, but he's shown signs of being a competitive player, and his break on the ball, as Wes Hodkiewicz tweeted out during practice, has been super impressive as well. So there's a little bit of juice there from King, and it's been a really nice start to camp for him, highlighted by Sunday's practice. And then I wanted to give just a shout out quick to Romeo Doubs as well. Went up for a 40-ish yard reception down the field. Route running has been really good. Hands have been really good. He beat Jair Alexander on a couple, or at least one-on-one play where he got him crossed over. And again, it kind of always feels a little bit like Romeo's the forgotten guy. Maybe not the flashiest player in the world, but just consistently good. The younger wide receivers are going to him for help, and he's had a very nice start to training camp as well. Your daily Rashawn Gary update, 2 big plays on the day. He absolutely crashed through the offensive line immediately for a tackle behind the line of scrimmage on a running play, and then had another play where he just had an easy sack. I called it an insta sack because he was there in like a millisecond. I couldn't tell if it was Telford or Dillard or if he beat somebody else on the play, but he immediately got there, immediately had what would have been a sack, and it's just a daily occurrence for Rashawn Gary. And I just want to reiterate, this is not normal. Even like Clay Matthews in his prime and all these, you don't see multiple big time plays in every single training camp practice. That is a tough standard to set every single day. And so far in camp, I know it's early day 6, but he has set that standard every single practice, and he is bringing the energy and the intensity. He has looked phenomenal so far. So another big day for Rashawn Gary. On the flip side, this was, I thought, LVN's best day of practice. He had multiple sacks. Now, one of those against Andre Dillard. If we talked about Sean Clifford being one of the guys that's really struggled, Andre Dillard has clearly been the other one. Those have probably been the 2 players that have struggled the most in camp so far. But LVN beat him for 1. There was another play where he got another sack. I think that one was probably a little bit more of a coverage sack, but good relentlessness from LVN. Was showing up well in run defense. And just this line as a whole has been consistently and constantly collapsing the pocket, and LVN did a good job on this day as well. He did have an offsides penalty that would have resulted in a 5-yard penalty, but this was a much better and much more impactful day from last year's number 1 or first round pick, I should say. And I think there's still some, obviously a lot of growth for LVN, a lot of potential, but we've seen some signs of improvement, and this was his best day of training camp so far. This was our first day of one-on-ones. So one-on-ones are taking place on 2 different sides of the field. You've got pass rushers versus offensive linemen on one side. You've got wide receivers and tight ends versus safeties and corners on the other side. I always love watching the passing ones. Paul Brettel, thankfully, watched the pass rush ones. So here were Paul's takeaways from the pass rush drills. He had Rasheed Walker versus Preston Smith, ended in a split. Preston 1-1, Walker 1-1. Kenny Clark versus Sean Ryan, each of them won 1 rep. He had Jordan Morgan going 2-0 versus Devontae Wyatt, so Morgan won both reps. Rashawn Gary won both reps against Kadeem Telfort. Colby Wooden won both reps against Luke Tenuta, and Carl Brooks and Royce Newman split the reps, Brooks winning 1 and Newman winning 1. As far as cornerbacks and safeties versus wide receivers and tight ends, I'm not going to go through all of them, but here were some of the key takeaways. Watson crossed over Stokes on an out route, got Stokes to completely fall over, won easily. Nice play by Watson. Dobbs had a very sick catch on a comeback route versus Jair. Good coverage by Jair, but Dobbs just plucked it out of the air. Jalen Wayne beat Zion Gilbert deep for what would have been like a 50-yard touchdown, hauled it in the end zone, had easy separation, beat him with speed, good hands to finish off the play. That was the biggest play of one-on-ones. Keyshawn Nixon had a near pick versus Dontavian Wicks. When Dontavian Wicks made his cut, he fell down. Nixon was all over it and almost came up with the interception. There was a bomb from Jordan Love to Samori Toure, who beat Javon Bullard on the play. Beautiful deep ball. Toure came down with it for, I think, what would have been a touchdown on the play. That was the other big one. Romeo Dobbs crossed over Jair Alexander for easy separation and an easy catch on a slant. Used great hands just plucking it out of the air as well. But that was an impressive one, mostly because it was against Ja. Was just a slant, but he got Ja completely selling one way, then crossed him over the other. Easy separation, like I said, for a nice completion there. Starkey, the wide receiver, had a play where he ran right past Anthony Johnson Jr., smoked him wide open in the end zone, and dropped the wide open touchdown. So that's not going to do him any favors. And then Grant Dubose beats Carrington Valentine on a play. 2-minute drills. The first one was the number 2s. As I mentioned, very first play of the 2-minute drill, it was Sean Clifford at quarterback, threw right to the middle of the field, and Evan Williams makes the drive-ending interception. Sometimes in those scenarios, what you will have happen is they're like, well, that was just one play. We didn't accomplish anything. Let's redo it. Nope. I think they were, quite frankly, like they wanted to send a message, I think, to Sean Clifford. No, that you don't get another chance. That's how it goes. Your offense is done. Get the ones out here. Because that was another poor ball and another bad decision by Clifford. And that was it. 2s won it easily. First play, interception. Evan Williams continues to be massively impressive. And unfortunately, on the other side, really tough start for Sean Clifford. Then the 1s go in. Things start really, really well. I'm not going to go through every play here, but you had a 23-yard completion from Love to Dontavian Wicks. Wicks had a really nice day overall, and the drive got going right away, and then it got backed up with another failed screen pass. They complete the screen pass. I forget who it was to off the top of my head. Maybe it was Josh Jacobs, and the defense was just all over it. There's a couple penalties on the drive, one by the offense, one by the defense, but it ultimately ends in a 4th and 2. And it was probably around like the 39-yard line, so it would have been a really long field goal. Also, the offense didn't have a timeout, and their 3rd down play, the clock kept rolling, so they couldn't spike it. They couldn't call a timeout, so the offense just kind of had to get up there and call a play. Love had all day to throw on 4th and 2. And that was probably the best the offensive line is protected, I think, in all of training camp. He's got Luke Musgrave going up the sidelines, and Love throws it to him deep. And unfortunately, Musgrave did not realize that Love threw the ball, and Musgrave stopped on the route. And I don't know if he would have kept going, if he would have got there. It looked kind of like he would have at first glance, but tough to say in real time. But Musgrave just didn't see it, stopped on the route, and the ball falls incomplete, and the defense wins that round as well. And then the threes, Michael Pratt comes in, works his way right down the field to set up a game-winning field goal, highlighted by 2 really nice throws from Pratt to Jalen Wayne, one on the right sideline, one on the left sideline. The one was the aforementioned one where he fit it right between 2 defenders, including Javon Bullard. Threw with unbelievable anticipation on that throw. That was one of the best throws of the day, quite frankly, and that was from Michael Pratt. And then the other big noteworthy play is they work their way all the way down the field. The ball's probably at like maybe the 25-yard line, or maybe like 28. And there's probably like 20 seconds left, no timeouts, and they're already in field goal range, and it's first down. So on first down, they hand the ball off, and they maybe get like 2 yards on the play. And then there's like 20 seconds left on the clock. The clock's ticking. And again, no timeouts. So this was the smart play, right? You want to drain the clock down. So the last play of the game is going to be the field goal. You don't want to kick the field goal with 25 seconds left to give the opposing team time if you make the field goal. So it's all going to come down to the one field goal. That's a smart move in that situation. So they're letting the clock run. And the clock gets to 3 seconds, and he's calling for the ball. He's like hut, whatever the cadence is in that case. And the center's not snapping it, and it gets to 1 on the clock. And finally the center snaps and he gets it down quick. It was this close to that extra second running off and them not getting that field goal off. Something that they're definitely going to need to work on. I don't know what the center was doing. I didn't see. My assumption is that it was Lacita Smith, but maybe it was Jacob Monk. I don't know 1,000,000% for sure. I didn't get to see it, but that was almost disastrous for the number 3 offense that drove beautifully down the field and then almost just didn't execute a simple snap and a spike, and time almost ran out. Instead, 1 second left, which set up game-winning field goal opportunities for both Anders Carlson and Greg Joseph. Both were good. Both made them. So the number 3 offense won that drive. And that was it. So that was basically the end of practice. Those 2 field goals were the final plays. As far as the kicking battle went, both Carlson and Joseph got 6 attempts on the day. Both of them went 5 for 6. There were some longer field goals, some 50-plus yard field goals. Both of them had good days overall. With, like I mentioned, one missed field goal. It was a windier day as well, but that brings both Joseph and Carlson to 16 of 18 in camp so far. So not too bad. I think that's a really encouraging start from both of those kickers. And I'll say one more time, it just feels like Anders is kicking with so much more confidence. I still would put him as the betting favorite to win the kicking job. I think it's going to take Carlson really struggling / Joseph continuing to kick well in order for them to make that change. I would be surprised if James Turner gets too much more of an opportunity. I wonder if they kind of narrow it down just to Carlson and Joseph somewhere in the near future. Turner is 12. He didn't kick on Sunday, but he is 12 of 18 so far. So again, Joseph and Carlson, 16 for 18 in camp. Turner only 12 of 18, and he's definitely looked like the 3rd best kicker in camp so far. Meanwhile, Jordan Love was asked about the defense following practice on NFL Network, and he said, quote, "The defense right now looks phenomenal." And if I had to give one takeaway from training camp so far, that's been it. Job not done. Say it again. Long way to go. Nobody's raising any banners for a solid week 1 of defense in training camp, most of which was against Sean Clifford, Michael Pratt, and Jacob Eason, and a little bit of a rusty Jordan Love. But the key measurables are there. The key indicators are there. The way that they're rallying to the football, the way they're communicating, not giving up big plays, the multiple takeaways, the multiple sacks. It has been a fantastic week 1 for the defense. And it's one thing to take it from me. It's another to take it from QB1. And again, quote, "The defense right now looks phenomenal." And that was from Jordan Love. Some miscellaneous stuff. It was Carrington Valentine, Evan Williams, and Kalen King, all who came up with interceptions for the day. The defense continues to force a ton of turnovers. The run game on offense is continuing to come along very slowly. Josh Jacobs hasn't really done anything of note so far. A.J. Dillon's had a couple nice runs here and there. We talked about Emmanuel Wilson at the onset, but it's been a very slow start for the running game. Keyshawn Nixon getting a couple looks this week as an outside corner. A few days ago, it was on the outside with the number 2s. He had one play today where it was just Jair Alexander and Keyshawn Nixon as your corners that were out on the field. So that was an interesting look. Not sure how real the potential of that is, but interesting nonetheless. And he does get some reps. I think that's probably more of a cross-training thing, but again, interesting to keep an eye on nonetheless. He did give up one big completion on the day on a deep crossing route, but outside of that, he's been much improved in coverage. You can tell it's something that he's been working on. He looks like the guy in the slot, and he looks improved from where he's been at in the previous couple seasons as that slot corner, breaking up passes. He's communicating extremely well, and he's done really, really nice job in run defense. No tackling, so there's always that question mark, but he's hit all the spots that he's needed to get to and been very involved as a run defender. Had a big hit from Benny Sapp, not a big hat, a big hit from Benny Sapp on Emmanuel Wilson. This was one of those that not anything dirty. It was just a pure collision in the hole. Both guys were just kind of in the same place at the same time. And Emmanuel Wilson, not a small back. Benny Sapp got the best of that one, laid out Emmanuel Wilson, and Emmanuel Wilson was the one that went flying backwards, and Benny Sapp was the one who came out on top. That was a big-time hit from Benny Sapp. Again, nothing dirty, probably not the physicality that you want to see necessarily, but it was just the circumstance. Both of them hit the hole at the same time. Emmanuel Wilson's trying to put his shoulder down and lay out Benny Sapp. Benny Sapp's trying to get his shoulder down and make the stop on Emmanuel Wilson and sort of also making it that he's not the one that's going flying backwards. Just was what it was, and Benny Sapp won that battle. Grant Dubose won on a deep crossing route versus Carrington Valentine, an impressive route from the second-year player, but I think he's battling. In fact, I would honestly, quite frankly, I'm just kind of thinking this out loud right now, I would very clearly say that Grant Dubose has had a much better start to camp than Malik Heath has. There's a play today where Malik Heath lined up on the wrong side of the field. He's had a couple drops. What to make of that is tough because Malik Heath had a really nice year a season ago as that sort of last wide receiver, the number 6 wide receiver by the end of the season, but still a solid player. But if you had to just go off the first week of camp, I would definitely say Dubose has had the better start to camp over Malik Heath at this point. Up and down day from Carrington Valentine, did have the really big interception, got beat in the one-on-ones at least one time, if not two, but definitely one time for sure, and then gave up 2 big completions. One was the one to Romeo Doubs on the 38-yarder. There may have been some OPI, tough to say. And then he gave up that big crosser as well. I can't remember if this is the one to Dubose. I think there was one to Jaden Reed as well. I can't remember which one it was, but he gave up one of those big crossers. Nixon was the other one. Luke Tenuta got some looks at guard. That was an interesting look for him. We have, as far as I can recall, seen much Tenuta at guard. So he got a look there for the day. And then deep crossers. I think the offense found something that was working well against this Jeff Hafley defense. As I mentioned, Dubose and Jaden Reed both came up with some big completions on deep crossing routes. There may have been one more as well, but either way, that was definitely a play that was working for this Packers offense. No practice on Monday. The coordinators will speak to the media. So Jeff Hafley, Rich Bisaccia, and Adam Stenovich will all speak with the media on Monday morning. I think that's going to mostly do it for us. Not exactly a victory Monday. I'm still going to be having my Victory Monday Luigi's Pizza, though. We got the first week of practice down. We've got a Jordan Love contract done. We've got a Kenny Clark contract done. That is good enough for a Luigi's Victory Pizza for me. Listen, when you taste a Luigi's Pizza, you're going to taste every single ingredient. It's delicious. I am going to go with the fresh dough pizza. It's the rising dough. I cannot speak enough about it. I don't even know the words to say about it. It is that freaking good. In fact, my mouth is watering so much, I'm going to get out of here because I want to make it right now. That's going to do it for me today. I will see you guys tomorrow. Get your Luigi's Pizza. Shout out to our Hall of Fame and All-Pro members, Most Hated Minnesotan, PJ Wynn, John Wild, Shea Bradad, Brandon Paletta, Jennifer Wright, Boom Handle, Donald Lee, Lori Lord, Baby QB, David McCluskey, Donald Decker, Dan Miller, Alex Huang, Arnaldo Espinoza, Peter Rataka, Caleb Cookster, SoCal Pack, and Dan Guessford. I'll see you guys tomorrow. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.